Okay, so welcome everybody. We're going to be doing a webinar today on negotiation, tips, tricks, and strategies. I like doing webinars where people participate. And so some of this is actually set up as I'm going to be sharing with you ways to even speak, meaning ways to strategize having a meeting about negotiation, not just what should be on the table, but also words to use that will help you position yourself well. I am happy for you to unmute yourself and for you to participate and for you to interrupt and whatever it is. So we will have a chance for questions at the end. However, just know that I'm open to that. So my name is Andrea Mia. First of all, if everybody could just let me know that you can hear me okay, or raise your hand if you can't hear me or you can't see the presentation, just to let me know. So I'm assuming everybody can. Oh, here's the chat. I'm sorry. Yes, we can. Okay, great. Fantastic. Oh, Aladdin. Welcome. Okay, just talked to you a little earlier. Anyway, my name is Andrea Mia. I am a coach. I live in Portland, Oregon. I've worked for Udacity for over a year now. And I have a very eclectic background, I would say. And the thing that unites it is that I've been working on storytelling pretty much all my life, whether as a teacher or working in Hollywood or being a coach, helping people tell their stories. That's been a lot of my background. Negotiation wise, I have spent, I don't know, I guess it was, I would say a good portion of my life having to deal with negotiation in the sense of either negotiating deals with people, negotiating my own salary, negotiating with people, their salaries. And so I have perspective on negotiation from a lot of different ways of looking at it. And one of the things that I think is, I'm going to click to this to talk about where we're going with this. I put a tip in the, in Udacity has a little forum that you can ask questions to and stuff. And we put tips in every now and then. And the first tip that I put in last week was about you should always negotiate. And somebody, and I put that tip in because I wanted to provoke people, and I provoked people. And they were like, wait a second, that's a cultural thing. You shouldn't always negotiate. I think that the reason why I put that in, and the reason why I wanted to do this seminar, is I want people to have a better sense of what they are empowered to ask for, and that they are empowered not to accept the first thing that comes out of someone's mouth as an offering, basically, and how to prepare yourself, how to prepare yourself for that conversation, whether it be around a promotion or whether it be around taking a job for the first time. So the answer to, do you always need to negotiate? No, not necessarily, but I think that you should look at taking on a job, look at this situation, unless they say absolutely no negotiation. We've said, from the get-go, we've said it's a $10 an hour job and X, and that's it. That's all we have. Then, it may not be worth negotiating in that sense. But, honestly, in almost all other circumstance, unless they make it totally clear, there's absolutely no wiggle room here. This is what we've got. Please don't talk to me. If that is not what they have said, then just know that there is some expectation that you will negotiate. And if you don't negotiate, that's potentially a strike not in your favor, depending on what the job is also. And so, while I say always negotiate, I think it's about the circumstance, basically. But if there is a possibility that this is something that you need to consider. One of the things that I wrote here in the agenda is, what is your value add in pre-framing, which I do want to talk about. But the things that we're going to go over today is creating a negotiation agenda, research that you need to do in advance. What are things that you can put on the table to negotiate? We'll talk about those, and I hope you all will share ones that you've thought of yourself as well. Winning strategy in negotiating a salary, and then we'll have a question and answers area as well. But I want to talk about this framework thing. What is your value add pre-framing? So part of what you need to, we don't need to look at this yet, okay? Part of what you need to do when you're going into a situation where you think that there might be a negotiation for your job is, first of all, set it up long before the negotiation even happens. Meaning, be friendly. Be friendly not just to the hiring manager that you are speaking with, but also to the HR person. You don't know where your ally is going to be in this process, and to develop an ally in this process can be very advantageous. And I want to give you an example. So I know somebody who they wanted this job. They were not offered what they wanted for the job. In fact, it was much lower than what they expected coming from their other job. And they got along very well with the hiring manager. And in talking to the HR person, realized, oh my gosh, we're so far off. We're so far off. I can't negotiate this with her because it's so far off and she doesn't have the ability to come up to the numbers that I'm looking at. So anyway, so rather than just say, okay, that's the end of it, basically, I want 5,000 and they're only offering me 1,000, whatever the case was exactly. He went to the HR manager and the hiring manager, and talked to him about an alternative option, which was for them to hire him as a consultant for 6 months, which falls into a different budget group, okay? And to do the work with certain parameters, and certain expectations of what he was going to achieve during that time period, which he had a good sense of already because he had already gone through the whole hiring process, and to pay out of this other budget for him as a consultant, with the idea that if he does really well in those 6 months, that then they will be able to, figure out how to pay him basically what he's worth on a full-time basis, and evolve himself into that. Anyway, and he was able to do that. So the win-win sort of situation he went back with was, okay, yeah, I get you don't have what it is that I need right now in this way. But, the point of it is, I think I can bring value to you. I think that I can help you with these problems in particular. And this is how I'd like to propose to do it. And maybe you paying me as a consultant in this way at this rate may make that possible. So this is a strategy I just want to throw out to you that starts to get to, everything's negotiable on some level if you can be clever enough. And if you're the right match, there should be ways that you can come to terms. And sometimes you got to think out of the box on how to do that. So one thing I wanted to throw out here, and I would love for people to add things to this as well. What's on the board here, the presentation board here, are ideas of things that you might want to negotiate that are not just about money. Okay, repaying student loans, that's a possibility. Could come out of a different part of their budget, could make a really big difference to you. Money to go to grad school or professional development. These are also things that if they are not coming with exactly the money you want, or maybe they are, but these may be things that are meaningful to you that you could also negotiate that for them comes out of a different part of their budget, basically. assistance with commuting costs. This could be something that is shared by a group as well. So may not be something individual to you. Community service, writing in the contract a severance package that maybe gives you more of a sense of security that way. One of the things about vacation days is a lot of companies now are saying it's unlimited vacation days. You just take what you want, but just don't screw us over basically by taking too much, as long as you get your work done. And that's something that, maybe something you still want to say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to take off these 2 weeks during this part of the year. And it may be something that you want to put into the contract, who knows? Or it may be that you want to talk about how in your last job, you've reached the level where you get 4 weeks of vacation a year. You would like to have that level in this job as well. And the justification for it then is that you've had it before and you'd like them to reach that same level. So there are different ways of positioning that. Flexible hours, different, maybe you really like working in the morning. I know my brother works for the government and they have the weirdest hours. If you show up at 3 in the morning and you want to start working from 3 in the morning till 9 or 10 or whatever it is, it's fine. And it's totally flexible hours. As long as the work is done, you can do it whenever you want to do it. Signing bonuses, that can be a big thing that amortized over time can make a big difference and potentially is coming from a different part of their budget. It's also something to think about when you're negotiating, that if you think that they are not at the level that they need to be, and one of the excuses that they give is, well, we're paying everybody else $5, we need to pay you $5. This is one potential win-win situation around that. It's like, I understand that you need to do parity, that we all need to be at the same level in that way. However, as far as my goals or what my expectations are, I need to be at X level. Perhaps a sign-on bonus is something that could make that up. That way, it's not creating disharmony basically between the group. So something to think about. If you're in sales, a higher commission rate would be something you could negotiate. Working from home, well, we all get to do that now. So that may be something you want to do permanently. That may be something you've really gotten used to. Or maybe it's something you want to ensure that you can do 2 or 3 times a week. Relocation expenses can be a huge thing. Travel grades, I worked with a woman a while ago now who, it was extremely important for her. She had to travel a lot, that she go business or first class. And when we were talking about the negotiation between a couple of companies that she was balancing out, that was actually like a sort of, take it or leave it with her. She's like, I'm not going to travel unless that's the case. And, so they have to send me at that level. And so one of the things we talked about is, okay, well, if they don't agree to sending you at that level, would they agree to giving you a certain amount of money for you to manage how you're traveling, basically? Or, so that she could still do business or first class, but that it wasn't negotiated into the contract to begin with. However, the monies were still available for her to do it. That was one of the tactics that we took, because in essence, this was a non-negotiable thing for her, being able to travel business or first class because of the length of the trips that she had to take and because of her health, and it just wasn't an option. So looking at it in different ways, it's like, this is something I need. Okay, how are you going to get me that? Even if your policy might say, hey, we don't send anybody first class, that's fine, but let's talk about just the budget. If I can manage the budget and pull that off, of course, there's no reason why I couldn't go first class. If it's about that managing. So anyway, so I wanted to give you an example of that as well. So in setting up a negotiation agenda, and that is something that you could potentially do, whether you're getting a promotion or you're getting a job for the first time. These are the few things that you should be thinking about. Thanking your employer, of course, showing that you're really enthusiastic, that you really want the job, okay? Showing them again what it is that you're going to be bringing to the job. What we want to do is we want to set up a positive situation to begin with, not starting a conversation with, oh, you know, I wanted to take this job. You know, I think you're okay, but this is too low. Okay, we want to set up first, like, why did they like you to begin with? You know, why did they want to work with you to begin with? What was the value that they were hoping to get from you? Reminding them of that, reminding them of your friendliness and of your, you know, willingness to work with them, and that your enthusiasm to work with them, basically. Also letting them know that you're there to work it out. You're there to find a win-win situation. You're not there to harangue them. You're not there to figure out ways that it won't happen. You're there to try to figure out ways that it can happen, okay? So I'll talk about a couple in number 6 here, discuss resolve ways to bridge the gap. I'm going to go through some actual dialogue on here that will help in a moment. But, you know, asking questions, asking about what their thinking was, for example, okay? If they are offering a salary that is, let's say, you know, 5% less than the going rate salary-wise in that area for that type of position, you might want to ask, what was the thinking behind it? There may be some thought behind it. You phrasing it as like, you know, I've done my research and I'm seeing that you're offering, you know, about 5% less than the going rate in this area for a person of, you know, 3 years of experience in this background in software engineering. Can you share with me some of the thinking behind that? So you can get insight from them by asking questions, which might help with your negotiation as well. They might say, oh, well, you know, we didn't know, who knows? And now they know. They could also say, that's right, we're undercutting, but the thing is that we're giving a lot of stock options, and that may be where we're trying to make it up. And then we can start having a conversation about stock options, and maybe that's something that you want even more of, or that you want something else from. So the main thing that I want to get across as far as the negotiation agenda goes is that you want it to be a friendly negotiation, first of all. You want to be looking at it as, I want to win, I want to work with you, and you want to win, you want to be able to be comfortable in the salary and the perks and the, you know, everything that you're offering, that you're in a comfortable place as well, so that they're not walking away thinking, oh, he really raked me over the coals here, you know, demanding all these things, and it was too hard for me to agree to it, basically, or I agreed to it, and now we're going to have to, you know, have less money for this, that, and the other because we want him so badly. We're not looking for them to once renege on the offer and say, okay, this is not possible. And you've turned into a monster negotiator, and this is not where I have the power to give you these things. And 2, we don't want to set ourselves up to to put them into a situation where we have to turn the job down, basically, because we've said, well, I won't do it for anything less than X. And I have no idea as to how to get you to X, or no thought or proposal as to how to do that. Or maybe I had no rationale whatsoever. I just, number-wise, I wanted X dollars. There's no history of that. There's in my history, and there's no tradition of that in the salary of the area. It's just a number that I wanted. That's not a rationale, really. But the key to the whole thing in the end is trying to figure out different options to make things possible. And the empowerment that I want to emphasize is that they did not bring up these things doesn't mean that you cannot bring these things up. That it was never mentioned what style of travel you would want, right? For example. But that's an important thing to you. That can be something that you bring up and that could be put into the contract as well. So in setting the agenda, whoever sets the agenda, this is just a clue anyway, okay? Whoever sets the agenda sets the different things that could be potentially on the table. Not that the other person couldn't bring things to the table as well, but you, by setting the agenda, can set a lot of the parameters there and a lot of the possibilities when we're talking about options. Does that make sense to people? You can chime in on chat or wherever you like. You can also unmute yourself. Okay. So one thing I talked about, I just wanted to give you a list here of places that you can go. It is very important when you're applying for a job that you have a sense of what the market will bear in your particular area, because what they pay in San Francisco versus what they pay in Bangalore or what they pay in Amsterdam is different with the same work involved, because it has to do with the cost of living and potentially the economy of the country itself as well. So one of the things that you really want to do is you want to know what the going rate is. If you can find out from within the company beforehand, great. And I'm always a big believer in, having an ally in the company, having a referral basically in order to get the job to begin with, but also to give you insight financially into like what the expectations are. But these resources on the right side can be helpful. Not all of them are the same level helpful. So Glassdoor, a lot of people go to Glassdoor, and Glassdoor is more of a self-reporting system, whereas the Bureau of Labor Statistics is more of a government reporting system. Unfortunately, that one's only useful for the US, but there are other ones as well. So you want to know your market, okay? You are a product on some level, and you want to know what the market will bear for your product, what people are willing to spend in that area. And that information can go to, asking why they're not at that level. That can also make you aware right away if they're like exceeding that level. And this angle is not one you want to play on, basically, because you don't want to say to them, hey, the going rate is $5, you offered me 10, but I really want 15. Okay, that doesn't help with that doesn't create any sort of win-win, argument, and nor does it show that the research is able to support your assessment that you deserve 15. Okay, so I wanted to go over a couple of ideas to exemplify what I'm talking about here. So in this case, this is about a salary being lower than what you expected, okay? So the setup that you do to begin with is, I'm wondering if you might be flexible on that salary figure. The number was slightly lower than I expected. And after researching salary.com, wherever, or people in your organization and talking to several peers in this area, I was expecting a range between X and X, okay? Now here, as far as rationale goes, you could also add in, for example, and with someone with my year's worth of experience or with the sorts of achievements that, value that I've brought to companies before, I am looking for, or I was expecting, excuse me, between 50 and 55,000, and I thought I would be on the upper end of that given what I was able to do before. And then see what they say. Okay, so maybe they adjust, and that's the end of it. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on. Hold on one second. or or they don't, which I'll get to in a second, okay? But what you really want to set up here, though, is that what the expectation is that you have, what the rationale is for you to have more than whatever it is that they offered. And then to, again, be thankful and to listen. And if there is a reason, like that one I gave earlier when we were talking about, well, we can't, you know, the unfortunate thing is we may not be competitive with the entire, you know, San Francisco area. However, this is what everybody else is getting, and I can't offer you more than that. That's when you can go to, okay, well then maybe we can figure out something else. The sign-on bonus maybe is a possibility. Maybe you only want to do part-time work. Maybe that's a possibility also. I'm not sure, but then you at least know if they say no, what the meaning, the reasons behind it might be. Okay. So if the salary is not met, this first one goes to exactly what I was just talking about, maintaining equity amongst the team, basically. Could a sign-on bonus be possible? This is what this option here is a negotiation I've done also personally in my past, which is that's fine if the salary is locked in at this level. However, I don't want to wait a year to get up to the level that I would like to be. Can we do the review earlier? So it's 6 months and setting clear parameters as to what it is that I'm going to be achieving during this time in writing, okay? And that they're achievable in writing. Then can we have the review at the 6-month level with the expectation that we will be reaching the level that I would like to be at financially, okay? That's an option, just moving that up basically. This is another possibility, is if it's locked in for a certain pay grade and you would like to be at a higher level and that is a different pay grade, is it possible that they could add different responsibilities that would allow you to be in at that pay grade basically, and that you feel like you could do? So the reclassification, is that possible? That's for like obviously a larger organization, but might be possible. So then, and then there's a couple of other options I've put down here. As you can see, you know, car option is a possibility. I like this phrase here, and it's something that is an open-ended one and good to know. If the salary is much lower than expected, to ask, would you be willing to share how you arrived at this number? Okay, and as I said, my market research shows a little bit higher, so I want to understand what accounts for the difference, okay? So don't assume the worst. Assume that there is a rationale in their decision-making as well, and discover that, because that may give you the opening to where it is you can negotiate potentially from. The more knowledge you have overall in a negotiation, the better off you are. So that's why I say the more you know the market, the better off you are. The more you know how they run as far as promotions, how often they do it, and how much they generally give, so much the better for you to know that. And to know that, and just to know in general that, you know, in a budget situation with a company, there are things that come from different areas of the budget. There are things that are salary. There are things that are potentially healthcare. There are things that are professional development. There's travel. There is relocation allowance. There is a bonus that is potentially not falling into salary necessarily either, could fall into another category within their budget. And so everything is not coming from the same pool money-wise. So that's something for you to consider also. So the salary may be one thing, things that may be valuable to you and cost them money may come from other areas of the budget where they may have more flexibility. And by budget, I mean the whole company's budget. Okay. So this is just some advice in general with this. This should not be an oral acceptance, you should get it in writing. You need to, so this is in a situation where you have negotiated a change in whatever it is their initial offer is. Fine, that needs to actually be added to the offer. The objectives of what you need to do, for example, in that situation where 6 months I want to have the review, giving this as an example. 6 months I want to have the review as opposed to a year, and these are the things that I should be able to accomplish during that time. Make sure they're measurable in some way and not like, I don't think you actually did that, so that it's not open to interpretation or any sort of controversy. And that there is a date that is defined as to when that's going to happen, that review, and what you will be getting because of it, whether it's a bonus or an upping of your salary, that should be happening by X date. So in other words, anything that you negotiate should be very clear and should be in writing. In inquiring about candidates' previous current compensation, illegal in some states in the United States. So there's a lot of legalities in the United States, especially, that I'm noticing are not in every country, about what they can ask you. I was talking to a man recently who said that he was asked whether he was going to be getting married soon and whether that would, distract him from his work. And I was thinking, wow, that's incredibly illegal in the United States, but it's not illegal in Hong Kong, it turns out. And, how do you handle answering that sort of question? This asking about how you did in your other job is never something that you want to answer. If you can avoid answering, that would be great. Whether it's specifically illegal, Samir, to ask what you got, I honestly do not know the answer to that one. I know that you can, in applications, leave it blank potentially, or do it in such a manner that what you should be putting in is the the researched rate when they ask for what compensation you're looking for. But I don't know the exact legality of it, and I'm not an HR person that way. My attitude towards it is that if somebody asks you, yeah, what were you making at your last job? I would actually answer more about how these jobs are potentially different, that this was a building block, but now you have all this experience you're taking from this job that you're giving to them, and that your expectations are that they are going to be in sync with the market in some fashion, and this is what you would be expecting. So in a sense, not answer the question, but answer it in a way that you feel comfortable with. I hope that helps, Samir. I wish I knew exactly whether that particular thing is legal or not legal. I don't happen to know. I know there's a lot of things that are not legal. They can't ask you about married, children, your age. They can't. So the thing is that there's a lot of prejudicial things in the United States that they can't prejudice against you. And so therefore they can't ask about it. But how much money you made at the last place, while in essence, that could be prejudice against you, it's not a civil right. It doesn't fall into the civil rights area. That's why I'm like, I don't know that that's one of them. Maybe somebody else on this webinar knows something more about that, but I don't. Okay. Oh, I think I just skipped going. Oh, no. So a question I have for you all is, what sort of questions have I not answered about negotiation that you would like to have answered? Sorry, I'm flipping through this a little bit there. As we went through what I had to say about it for now. You can write the questions in the chat, or you can unmute yourself as well.
Can I ask a question, please?
Of course, Aladdin. Yeah.
Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for this session. It's extremely helpful. I really didn't know about all this stuff, to be honest, personally. The first one is like, I saw like some links and so on. So is it like possible to share those links, or is it possible to share this PPT or not? And
Yeah.
also where I can find this record.
Okay,
That's the
so the recording will come on, I think, like within 48 hours. I know we're hitting some holidays here. So definitely by next week, but should be within about 48 hours. I just know the lady who puts that together, she's going to be taking off some time this week. So it may be a little longer. The links I will put in the chat, I believe. You want the links to the salary stuff, right?
I mean, not only the salary, but also like there are some slides that it's like quite interesting, like the.
Oh, yeah, I don't have a way to send that to you, but everything will be in the recordings area of Udacity, which is on YouTube. And that should be very soon, basically. And so
Okay.
if you like, you can, first of all, I'm going to copy the salary stuff into the chat for everybody here. So you have that. I say that, but it's not. But okay, there's that. And as far as the link to where it's going to be, if you go to the Career Hub, the peer chat basically, and you look on the right side, you can always see links there to the webinars basically, and also to the past recordings. And so this will be available in there. Thank you, John, and thank you for joining.
Amazing. Just like one more question, I'm sorry. So you like sometimes I'm getting confused between persuasion and negotiation. So from your experience, what's the difference between them actually? Even though they are kinda at some point they are similar, maybe from my experience.
Well, I would say that persuasion goes into negotiation, but persuasion as a subset, you know, within when you are negotiating something. So negotiation is you know, you're in the context of negotiating, you know, they're offering me Y, I want X, etc. Your persuasion, however, you know, actually, I would say your persuasion and your negotiation starts from the very beginning, in the sense that that example that I gave at the beginning of the HR manager who, the hiring manager basically, who really liked this guy and made it possible by coming in as a consultant versus coming in as a full-time employee when they didn't have the money for that quite set up right. That worked because that hiring manager was really persuaded by the candidate that he was a great match. That persuasion really came out there and continued through the entire negotiation. So, so persuasion is what made that possible. And persuasion was part of the negotiation that started from the beginning almost, you know, even before they knew that they wanted you. You're setting up what their expectations are of you and what you'll be able to deliver to them. One thing to remember, everybody, is that all work is, at the end of the day, is somebody giving you money to solve a problem they have. That's it. The more that you can keep clear in your negotiation stance on how you are helping them solve their problem, then you are priceless on some level, because that's what they're hiring you for. And you want to set yourself up negotiation-wise and persuasion-wise, that you are bringing value to them, that you are helping them solve their problems. Question from Lisa: how to determine the opening bid for a salary if your future employer asks you to start? I hate that, by the way. And I generally feel like the first person who throws out the number oftentimes can be the loser, okay? So you want them to throw the number first as much as you can. But Lisa, you're right, sometimes you get stuck with it and they refuse to say. So I would always answer a range. I would do the research when you're getting a range, okay? Let's say you see that for a software developer, that the range is between, I don't know, $50,000 and $60,000 for a beginning software engineer in your particular area. You know, let's just do logically. What's going to be the difference between the $50,000 and $60,000? Okay, it could be educational bumps. It could be experiential bumps. Those are probably the two things that I would look for most, right? And then you need to assess yourself. Okay, look, they're looking for somebody with 3 years of experience. I have 5 years of experience in this. Okay, I should be at the upper end of this. I shouldn't be at the lower end of this because I'm not the beginning person. I exceed their expectations, or I exceed the bare minimum of the expectations here. And therefore, I would position myself more at the upper end of that. So no, I would not start as the average of it. I would actually let them know how you're thinking also. So if we're saying, okay, a software engineer is between 50 and 60,000, I have exceeded the amount of years that they are looking for. I definitely have the educational balance that they're looking for. This doesn't throw me in the bottom end of it because I'm exceeding it. Okay, so my assumption is between 50 and 60,000, I'm going to fall on the upper end of this. And I'm assuming that I'm going to be, you know, definitely over 58,000, something like that. So to let them know a little bit what your thinking is. Does that help, Lisa? What I don't want to have happen, and everybody should keep this in mind, is the reason that we want them to throw the number first and not you to throw the number first is they may have already exceeded what you wanted. And if you come in with, well, I've done the research 50 to 60,000. Oh my God, you were going to offer me 70 and you left that on the table. That's terrible, right? So you want them to set the bar, right? Assuming that they're going to set it as low as they want to. You want to know what they're setting it at first before you negotiate. But in Lisa's case, she's saying, yeah, but what if they, you know, don't tell me at all? Then you've got to go based on research, and you've got to play the research game specific to you as well. Okay. Any other questions anybody has? You can unmute yourself, or yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it's kind of similar to what Ms. Lisa said. So like, what if if I am associate, so, or like I'm pretty much fresh graduate, and how can I negotiate my salary in this case? Take into consideration almost no experience, or my experience, as you said, like, oh, in NGOs or stuff like that. So in this case, how it is going?
I think that one, you know, let's say you're a brand new graduate, because there are two different sort of cases in that sense, Aladdin. You're saying one is I have experience in a different industry coming in, and the other is I'm a fresh graduate. What I would position is if they are looking for a certain type of skill set that you know that you have utilized, let's say, in projects that you have done in college, even though you weren't paid and had an internship, or, you know, had job experience in that way, that you are actually bringing some sort of experience to bear in this. That's something that I would use as a negotiation tactic, basically, as far as, again, making clear on these are the experience I have that are going to bring value to you in this way. I've dealt with the most crazy people from all over the world, you know, and figured out who out of pools of thousands would be useful to work, you know, in this particular circumstance. Although this wasn't a paid thing, this was a volunteer situation. That skill taught me so much, and I'm going to bring all that knowledge to you. Don't assume that because you haven't been paid for something, meaning that it was experiences that you had in college or maybe volunteer-wise, don't assume that those experiences don't bring value to a situation as well. When I was in college, we put together, I was part of the committee that put together an umbrella organization for the university, actually, that monitored and empowered all of the different volunteer groups in the entire university. So there had never been a group. We created this thing called Community Impact that basically was the umbrella for all of the different nonprofit sort of actions that students could take, or partnerships that the university had that students could participate in. That organization we founded in X year. It's still going on today, a long time ago. And that creation of the foundations of it, that it was strong enough that it has survived 30 years later, you know, is part of the value that I created back then, right? And that was not a paid experience. That was a, you know, an experience in putting together the foundations of an organization that were strong enough to last, basically. So I wanted to give you that example because you can take examples of things that you've done if you're a new graduate during school, if they go to the type of experience that people might be looking for in the jobs that you're looking to take on. Is the Zoom link the same? No, the Zoom link won't be the same. So Rokio, you need to actually RSVP for the meeting on the 28th, and that will give you the Zoom link. This Zoom link is only for this meeting. Aladdin, does that help you a little bit with that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions from anybody?
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Osama.
First of all, if I have some skills which are not in the requirement of the job, but I believe that they might be complementary to the job, like let's say I'm a marketing executive and I can speak multiple languages, or I know some other frameworks, but they didn't exactly ask for it. How can I leverage these skills to get better than average salary, let's say?
Okay, so the first thing to establish, Osama, okay, and this is something to be careful about too, is you want to make sure that the skills that you are trying to position are skills that are going to be useful on a, I don't want to say on a daily basis, but that they're really going to add value, okay? So one of the things that I see a lot on people's resumes, for example, is they know 15 different computer languages, and they're applying for jobs that really care that they know 3, whatever it is, whatever the numbers are. The problem with them saying, yeah, but I know these 15, you know, this is the truth, you know, okay, they may or may not be valuable, but I know these 15, is who cares? You've just distracted the whole negotiation, basically. If there isn't a clear link into how this is going to be useful for them. So for example, Osama, let's say that, yes, you do know other languages, okay? And languages you know are not countries that they're going into, are not stakeholders that they are having anything to do with. So the fact that you know Finnish and Hungarian is lovely that you know that. However, they're very focused on the Asian market, and that doesn't really bring value there. Then it can go for that as well. If, however, you're like, hey, you're opening up the Asian market, not only do I have experience working in China, Japan, and Korea, but I also speak Japanese and Korean, and that's going to help us. That's going to help us move forward better. In fact, I think I could even teach people about more on how we negotiate with the Koreans or the Japanese, and what I can teach you culturally, what the rest of the company may not know due to my experiences. Now I see that you're positioning yourself as like, this is an asset grab, and saying, hey, I'm bringing something else in here that is going to be hard to quantify exactly, but I know is going to bring value. And let me tell you how I think it will bring value. And therefore, I am looking for a bit of a, you know, an experiential bump in that sense, because I'm bringing this to you. So what I'm trying to say, Osama, is first of all, make sure that it really is relevant. Just knowing languages is not enough. And make sure there really is a connection, and then share with them what the connection is and how you're going to see this as an advantage and how that's adding to your experiential background. And therefore you should be at the top of the range versus the middle of the range or the bottom of the range, you know, something like that.
Okay, I had another question. Put yourself as in the shoes of employer. Let's say I have education, experience, skills, and how much does the salary like rank in the hierarchy of the things they are looking for? For example, let's say there are a couple of shortlisted candidates, and they have similar level of experience. Let's say education varies. How much will the salary factor be, let's say, impacting the decision of hiring which, like, so that I can, let's say, more focus on whether to undercut other people, or should I just focus on how much I can bring the value to the companies instead
I think the first thing is the value, okay? Because what an employer wants is they want somebody who's going to, as I said, solve their problems, right? And who's going to be a good worker for them. And they're gambling on all of you. Forget them, okay? They're guessing, Osama, is he a good one? Is he going to be the guy who gives 110% and always figures out new projects to do, you know, before anybody even asks him, you know, is he going to be that guy, or is he going to be the guy who's does the bare minimum of what's necessary? And yeah, we could replace him one day. This was not the best of investments. As an employer, I want to hire the best person that I can afford. Really, that's what I want. So you need to position yourself, if that's how you feel like you are, you need to position yourself as the best person first. And then as far as, you know, you can price yourself out. You know, I mean, that is true. And I think that's what you're asking for here. Rocio, excuse me. If they say, I do not think you're a good fit for the company, there may be several reasons for that, okay? But trust me when I say that's probably good if they walk away, that you probably want to be walked away from. Because if they are already getting cold feet, or they are already like not thinking that you're a good match, that doesn't get better if they then accept you and you continue to fail in their eyes. I think that let's give that sales position a focus for a second. If you don't negotiate and you're a salesperson, so this question has come up before with someone I know, where they were a salesperson and they didn't negotiate, and the company came back and decided not to go forward with them. And part of the reason they decided not to go forward with them was because they didn't negotiate for themselves. They didn't fight for themselves. And what the HR person thought in the end was like, they're not willing to fight for themselves. How are they going to be a good salesperson and fight for this company? How are we supposed to believe that? They didn't even say anything when we said this is what the salary was. So it can depend on the position, but honestly, if a company is coming back to you and saying, hey, I don't think we're a fit, then thank you for figuring that out now and not wasting both of our times. This goes to Rocio also, that you are also you're also interviewing them. And if they may not be a good fit when you're interviewing, and you can learn that along the way also, and you can walk away. I don't see that as a bad thing necessarily, that the good fit thing. It may be that you're a really nice person and they're all jerks, and they realize you're a nice person and you won't be able to stand up to the jerks, and you don't want to be around the jerks anyway, because you're a nice person. So I think that's wonderful when people say you're not the right fit, because they're making some judgment that may be sparing you something in life. Any other questions from anybody? Osama, I hope that answered your question. I'm not quite sure. I know I went a little bit of
yes, it answered. I got the gist of it. Okay,
Yeah.
I do have another question. Okay, and sometimes in the job position offers, they put the expected salary or the salary they are willing to pay. Okay, and if we start to negotiate, they will say that we already mentioned this salary, so why are you negotiating? If you applied for this, then you are willing to. So how can we get past that? And I know the whole slides, like whole presentation was about how to like get more than what they say, but in this particular case, I actually faced this question. They said that you saw the opening, you saw the salary, so why are you asking for more? They asked me this. So how can I, let's say, get reply to this question?
Yeah. So one of the things to think about is like, first of all, you know, again, you're looking for them to work for you, right? You're looking for them to be on your side. So we're not wanting to set up an antagonistic situation. Hey, you said, you know, like we want to set it up so that it's like, yeah, I saw that. I saw that you're only offering $5,000. I thought that, and this is what I'd like to talk to you about, that there might be some flexibility, maybe not in the salary, but maybe in some of the other aspects of the job. Are you open to talking about blah, 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 whatever else might be interesting to you, including, are you open to having a sign-on bonus? Because that can make up the difference. And I know that was the salary expectation there. And that could be acceptable if there was a sign-on bonus maybe, or if this was a job where I was only working X hours a week, you know, something like that. And looking for where their flexibility might be and the thing that might make a difference to you. That's sort of the tactic. I did that once, Osama, also, where I saw the what they were offering. And what I did was I said, okay, fine, you want to pay me $50,000. That's what you have in your budget. Great. I'm going to do it 3 days a week. Is that okay? Will that work for you? We'll still get the work done. I wanted to do it part-time for the same amount of money, basically. But I wanted to maintain businesses that I had on the side as well. So that was my tactic. It's like, fine, I accept the money, but I actually am going to take back time for that because that'll enable some other things to make up the difference for me. So Osama, that's an idea too.
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful.
Okay, we are about at time unless anybody has another question. I thank you very much for joining today. And there is a seminar that comes on next week on the 28th. Always good to check out in the calendars what Udacity is up to. Thank you, thank you, thank you for asking your questions. I appreciate it very much. I hope you all have a good rest of the year as we are down to our last week now. Take care.